Today's video we're going to do the June month head forecast day. Going to have a look at the seasonal models, or month head models, their seasonal models as well, but for this video we're using them for the month head. I'm going to attempt to see what they are predicting for the coming month. I'm also going to have a quick review of the May forecast. So May forecast was a complete and total disaster for myself, GasWeatherVids.com, and I'll have a look at that in a moment. Now, before I go on, I just want to make sure the advertiser there's a video ad sitting just above this weather video at GasWeatherVids.com. Please play it. You'll be supporting GasWeatherVids.com by doing it. So we're going to start off having a look at May. May forecast was for a slightly warmer than average month and a potentially much drier than average month. Well, precipitation was a bust that came in a bit above average actually across the country, and the temperature forecast was absolutely dreadful. If I just get rid of the camera, we'll have a quick look at this, because well, the Central England temperature shows that we came in at 10.4 there, which is an anomaly of 0.8 below the 61 to 90 average. So I'll just very quickly highlight this for you, and that's the month we're looking at, May. Yeah, the central temperature comes out at 10.4, which is 0.8 degrees below the 61 night average, a colder than average month, and that joins in with April and March being colder than average. March, of course, phenomenally cold at 2.7, an anomaly at 3 degrees below average, and those 3 months make up the coldest spring in Central England. Can you believe this? Since 1891. Exceptionally cold spring, mainly down to what happened in March, of course, but an exceptionally cold spring, and May does play its part in that. I said that May was going to be potentially a warmer than average month and a drier than average month. It was a total failure, so this one definitely has to go down as a miss rather than a hit, and very sorry about that. So we'll get on with June and see what the seasonal models are predicting for the month of June. And first of all, we're going to start off with CFS model. This is CFS version 2. Not quite sure why it's version 2, to be honest, because it's the only CFS model that's around. Version 1 has been discontinued, so it's just playing CFS really. And the CFS version 2 model is showing a nice area of above average heights here at 700 millibars around and to the north of the British Isles, stretching up towards Scandinavia. And if I highlight it over here again, there's the high pressure stretching up through the British Isles, sitting to the north of Scandinavia, stretching out into the Atlantic as well. A big area of above average heights. Below average heights tracking well to the south of it through the Mediterranean. So we've got low pressure down there and high pressure up there. You can't see it very well, but that's high pressure up there. That is an area of high pressure dominating for much of June, if CFS model is correct. A very strong ridge of high pressure. Now, perhaps surprisingly with this, the model is going for a cooler than average month across much of Western Europe, and for the British Isles, well, it's just about cooler than average around East Anglia. We've got a little bit of cooler than average temperatures up there and along the east coast, but the bulk of the country is average. You would perhaps suspect with that area of high pressure to the northeast that would be above average for the month. Perhaps a little bit surprising there, but CFS model is going for an average June, a little bit cooler than average actually on the east coast. I think the reason that's happening is this that we see here on this sea surface temperature anomaly chart, because that shows the story really. We've got very, very cold waters here around the British Isles. The North Sea is cold, the Atlantic cold, the Channel is cold. Yeah, we've got cold waters. That's really left over from the cold winter and spring. But notice up over Scandinavia, the waters are above average. These are very shallow waters that we're talking about here around British Isles, around Norway, around the Baltic. Very shallow waters, very responsive to weather, to temperature. So if you've got an area of high pressure sitting around the British Isles for a couple of weeks and temperatures around 80, 90 Fahrenheit, you will very quickly find that cold anomaly is wiped out. So that's the reason that the model, I think, is going for just average temperatures, despite the fact that high pressure is dominating according to the model throughout the month. it's the cold waters that we have around the country. But those waters can very quickly change if we was to get a spell of hot weather. So can't put too much on credence on that, but it does give you doubts really about what's going to happen, because the pattern suggests that it should be a warm month. The sea surface temperatures suggest that the temperatures will be pegged back to some degree. Precipitation, obviously it's a drier than average month being predicted here, not surprising with that area of above average height sitting to the northeast and through the country, ridging through the country. You would expect a drier than average month. That's what the model is going for. Now, also complicating this month is the fact that I think we're going to have a bit of a switch as we go through the month. Just want to remind you of the South Korean model. I talked about this in a video last week, but it's worth going over this again. This model is going for, in the middle of the month, a big area of high pressure to be sitting around British Isles. That's a very extensive area of high pressure dominating through the middle of the month. But just look what happens as we get through to the latter stages of June. This is for late June, and then we see that the heights have completely collapsed over the country. They're pushed off up towards Greenland and Iceland, sitting well to the northeast there, and we are actually under an area of lower than average pressure. This is pressure. So we've got high pressure sitting up over Greenland, but for the British Isles we're actually under lower than average pressure. A complete collapse takes place from the middle to the latter stages of June. A bit of a switch around definitely being predicted there. And the JMA model is very similar. Now, this is quite hard for you to make out, but I'll just highlight where the British Isles is on this. This is for the first week of June. The British Isles is here. And we see that we've got the high pressure, of course, up to the northeast. All the models are agreeing on that. We've got low pressure down to the south of the country. We're basically near normal in terms of pressure for England and Wales. We're above average for Scotland. These are 500 millibar heights, but it's suggesting that at the very least have a very settled start to the month, I think. As we go through to the second week of June, well, it's the same sort of idea, although heights are lowering a little bit up to the northeast. So there's the British Isles again there. I'll just highlight that. So again, we've got the above average height sitting up to the northeast. Not quite as extensive or as intense, but still an area of high pressure up there. Low pressure still to the south, more or less. So still same sort of idea for the second week of the June. Then as we go into the third and fourth weeks, look what happens. All of the heights disappear. It goes near normal up to the northeast of the country, and for the British Isles itself, well, yeah, we're under the blue colours there, indicating that at 500 millibars, we're actually below average, so a bit of a trough then is starting to set up as we get through to both second and third weeks of June, and all of the heights that were sitting up here, they've gone. So again, this sort of goes with the idea from the Korean model that we're likely to see some sort of a collapse of the high pressure and a trend towards lower pressure as we go towards the third and fourth weeks of June. What about the Beijing Climate Centre? These are for 10-day periods, 500 millibar height anomalies. Easier to make out this, and we see again we've got the same idea, the high pressure sitting around British Isles and to the northeast. If I highlight over here, yes, going up towards Scandinavia, a lot of high pressure dominating there. So again, that first 10-day period, very good. I think we are looking at mainly dry weather through the first 10 days of the month. Going out to the second 10-day period, which takes us from the 11th to the 20th, well, heights have lowered a little bit, but still really high pressure is dominating here to the north of the country and around the British Isles, and again going up here. Again, it's not as extensive through this period as we see through the first 10-day period, but really high pressure is quite dominant there. But pressure perhaps is lowering a little bit down to the south, and again around here. That's where the low pressure is, and maybe that low pressure is pushing up more towards southern England through this mid-month period. And then let's get through to the next 10-day period, which takes us to the end of month, takes us from the 21st to the 30th, and again it's the same idea. The heights have gone up to the north and the northeast, and actually the British Isles is left under a very shallow trough of low pressure, lower than average heights, and again through here, lower than average heights up here, and the high pressure up to the northeast, which was sitting up there, has really gone, so you have to question what's going on there. And again, it's gone there, so again put a question mark there. So that really again is implying that as we go through months, particularly into the second half of the month, we're losing the heights and we're lowering the pressure. Now, what's the temperature forecast from the Beijing Climate Centre? Well, it's going for a warmer than average month for the British Isles. Yes, a warmer than average month is predicted, but you don't have to go far to the south to find that it's colder than average. There's the colder than average temperatures there, just sitting to the south of the country, so that's not much of a dividing line between a warm month and a cold month. You could really take that and swing it either way. This really is an incredibly difficult month to forecast. For precipitation, though, the signal is very, very strong, and the signal again is for a drier than average month. So I think we have got a very good signal here for a dry month for the British Isles. Yeah, I think we've got a very good signal there for a drier than average month. So we're going to call a drier than average month. I think that's very sound. High pressure going to be dominating. It will get a bit wetter later on in the month. We're going to see the collapse in the pressure, I think, as we go through to the latter stages of the month. But it won't be enough to offset the dryness through the first and middle part of the month. So very good call on precipitation. Going to be a drier than average month. That's the prediction on that. But for the temperature, it's much harder to predict this for temperature. The sea surface temperature anomalies around the country cold, but the pressure is suggesting it should be warm. I'm going to say we're going to come out a little bit above average, but it's a really hard month to call this. It could very easily go around average or go under the average. It just depends on the way that the wind is coming around the high pressures. If it's from a northeasterly with that cold North Sea, it's almost certainly going to be a cooler than average month. If it's southeasterly, even with the cool waters around the country, it's going to be above average because we'll bring the heat up from the continent, and that cold water in the North Sea, around the Channel and around the west coast will very quickly disappear if we get a spell of hot weather. The sea surface temperature will very quickly come up. So that's the prediction. Very good for precipitation, very strong signal. Going to be a drier than average month. I think we've got that sorted. But for the temperature, very difficult. I'm going to say it's going to come up a little bit above average and have our first slightly above average month of the year, but really difficult, and like May, it could go wrong. And also a definite trend within that, that we're going to see a much more unsettled, or a more unsettled latter part of the month. Final week to 10 days of the month will turn a good deal more unsettled, I think, than the first and middle parts of the month. But a really difficult month to pin down this June. Finally, having a very, very quick look at July, a quick sneak peek, and it's the same sort of idea from the CFS model here, that we've got high pressure bridging through the country from the Atlantic, going out to the northeast. Again, we can see it over here through the country, go up to Scandinavia. The core of the heights further back though with this, more back towards western Russia actually. So the potential there, I think, for a more unsettled-ish sort of month, but not a disaster by any means, and that would be a pretty good month there, if that's right. But we'll worry about July when we get to it. I think we've got enough to worry about with June, because I'm not confident about those temperatures for June at all. Confident precipitation, and just summary, in summary, the GavsWeatherVids.com forecast for June 2013 is apt. We're going to have a drier than average month, very strong signal for that. But for temperature, the signal is much, much weaker. I'm calling a slightly above average month, but I'm taking the life into my hands with that. It could easily go wrong. But a slightly cooler than average month is the prediction. That's it. Slightly warmer than average month, slightly warmer than average month is the prediction. So warmer than average, drier than average for June. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.